On the cutting edge of anomaly research, you are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, E.W. Gannett.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of The Evidence. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. An interesting week, hasn't it been, with all these so-called revelations about UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs in the vernacular. And I, for one, just feel a note of caution about it all. Don't be too quick to think that this is true disclosure, or to think that the videos themselves are legitimate, although they may well be. But I think that it's like any other thing that the government has its hands in, that it'll be mostly disinformation with an end towards controlling national thought, national agendas, that type of thing. So who knows? Time will tell, I suppose. But you know, on another note, my friends and imaging experts Neil Spence and Neville Thompson have been going back and issuing some beautiful PDS gigamacros of some of the early sols in Curiosity's epic journey. And in going back to those and looking at them, I have found many of the anomalies I found as a budding anomaly hunter, only this time in much better detail. And so I've been processing those and presenting those, and this particular one, Sol 796, is loaded with various anomalies. And so I thought I'd spend the entire episode, such as it is, on 796, show you some of the things I've found, and encourage you to as well. Click on the links below and do some anomaly hunting of your own. The ones I'm presenting are by no means all of them, just the ones that I kind of like. There are plenty more to be found and presented if that's what you like doing. So let's dive into my own particular way of presenting things. And by the way, welcome to all you splendid weirdos who are on this journey with me. I'm so glad you're here. And just remember, stay weird. Here we go. As I mentioned, we're going to be taking a serious look at 796, a beautiful GMAC done by my friend Neil Spence. And this is the overall context view. And what we'll be doing is divide this entire image into 3 slices, and we're going to start on the right end. And if you click the link, it'll take you right to this GMAC. And this particular section, the right third of the context view, has a couple of items marked in it, as you can see. And this is just how they'll appear, except, of course, it won't be in 3D. This is in 3D. I live in New England, where the ground is loaded with rocks. So it's real common to see properties where the land has been cleared and all of those rocks are built into a wall along the property line. Many of these walls have cement troweled along the top to level everything off and give it a nice finished appearance. And that's really what caught my eye on this one. Not only are the stones laid together like the polygonal megalithic walls we find in Peru and elsewhere around the world, but it has what certainly looks like a nicely troweled and leveled cement topping to it. And of course, there's that symmetry, the arrow straight lines, and all those right angles which are the very definition of fine masonry work. But as you probably have already discovered, there's more to see in this image. This triangular piece appears to not only be hollow, but have enough leftover symmetry to make me question its natural origins, if indeed it has any. And what about these two cylinders in the upper left, with the really interesting designs on the ends facing us? I would just love to get in closer to examine these, but unfortunately it's already at the breakup point, and this is just about as clear as they're going to get. The point is, this GMAC is loaded with strangeness. Let me show you what I mean. These guys jumped out at me because of those evenly spaced teeth. And no, they're not animals living, dead, or fossilized. They might just be interesting rocks. But you know, they do appear to be somewhat mechanical in nature, don't they? That one in the back sure looks like a backhoe bucket to me. We remember that form follows function in the world of engineering. So even an alien backhoe will have similar characteristics based upon what the tool is supposed to do. But what gets me is this little tube coming out of the one in front. As far as I'm concerned, this takes the whole piece right out of the natural class and into the full-fledged anomaly class, but that's just me. And this little gem is just a short way upslope from our toothy duo. I can already hear folks saying, "It's a magical entrance for miniature Martians leading to their secret underground lair." Well, who knows, maybe it is, but I'm more inclined to think it's the remains of something mechanical. It looks to be made of battered metal, and I'm sure you've already noticed it's a completely different color and texture from the surrounding material. There are any number of markings and shapes on its surface which, as tempted as I am to try to define them for you, they'd mostly be defined by my own pareidolia. Okay, now we're moving to the center portion of the 796 GMAC by Neil, and I've marked a couple of things in here. Let's start with the one labeled markings. Here's another one that caught my eye, and it seemed rather improbable from the geologic viewpoint. A nice, clean line of 4 blocks, pretty much the same size, and each one covered with markings that bring to mind Mayan glyphs. I'm not saying that's what they are, only that the markings give the impression of conveying information rather than just being random. And as you can see, there's all kinds of anomalous pieces in this image. I won't point them all out, but how about this one down in front? Nice, clean, 90-degree angles frame either a bunch of carving or maybe even some mechanical parts. And what about this little item over on the right side? I know, big deal, Dave, some of you may be thinking right now. But take a good look at it and lock its shape into your mind. Sure looks like the same kind of thing, doesn't it? This one's bigger, of course, but what are the chances of 2 boulders with exactly the same compound curve on one side and being sheared totally flat on the other? For that matter, what are the chances of 3 boulders with identical compound curves on one side and being sheared totally flat on the other? Yeah, I know, never happened. Whatever this one is made of, it catches the light, and it kind of just glows, doesn't it? In fact, One might be tempted to imagine these are the remains of a chest made of gold. Pretty silly, right? But let's do one of our famous inventories just for the heck of it, moving left to right. Pareidolia wants to make that a face on the left end, maybe even the face of a lion. More likely it's just the way the light and shadow interact, although it is curious that those markings are bilaterally symmetrical. And notice that hump above the face, the even thickness, the symmetry, and placed just where it should go for an old-fashioned turtleback chest. Looking at the top, you can see that it's basically hollow, that the lid has either disappeared or maybe it just collapsed into the interior. The side facing us seems to have carvings or markings on it. And notice on the right end, that mostly square piece with 4 similar openings in it. And as you come forward from that piece, do you see the spiral and other symmetrical pieces just lying about? There's more here, of course, as you let your eyes wander around the background. So, is this a manufactured object? If it is, I want to know why it was made this way and what they put in it. And so now we're on the left-hand third of this beautiful GMAC of 796 by Neil Spence. And you can see the 2 items that I've marked there. We're going to go in and have a look. This really sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's a great example of the difference between fractal, like the rocks surrounding it, and non-fractal, the clean rectangle with 2, maybe 3 buttons inside it. The first thing I thought of when I found this was an abacus. You know, the ancient Oriental calculator where you slide around different sized or different colored buttons back and forth to represent different numbers. Now, obviously, this is far too big to be an abacus. It could be as much as 6 feet long, and that'd make it kind of challenging to figure out sales tax in the checkout line. I know I sound like a broken record at times, but it really boils down to 2 possibilities in my mind. It's either an architectural component or an ancient mechanism of some kind. But it ain't natural. And this last one is one I found and worked on years ago, and we're starting with what I did at that time. As you can see, it's a blurry mess. But in my defense, all I had to work with at the time were substandard JPEGs from NASA, coupled with processing skills that were just barely adequate. So here's what it looks like today with a decent PDS by Neil Spence and some careful cleanup. That's a ton more detail, wouldn't you say? This has the appearance of a drive housing, like something that would surround a large industrial belt and wheel assembly. As you let your eyes wander over its surface, and of course all the debris in front of it, you should be able to identify at least a dozen out-of-place artifacts. It would seem logical to conclude that they're all from this particular larger piece, a shattered machine lying buried in the sand. But I wonder if you noticed this one small detail. Any of you who have worked in an industrial environment will be tempted to call this a switching box, and on and off buttons for the wheel itself. It's not likely it would be mounted on the rim of the housing for safety reasons, but then again, they didn't have OSHA on Mars back in the day, as far as I know, and maybe that's why Mars ended up being destroyed. Well, thanks for stopping by today, and For those of you who would like to help keep this channel ad-free, even $1 a month would go a long ways towards that goal. My sincere gratitude goes out to all our patrons and our contributors. Thank you for your generous support. Meanwhile, if you saw something you liked, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps me know whether to continue this work. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. To all my friends and unique weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. Until then, this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.